Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. Any concerns that you have, we've got it covered here on the show. All of this week, we're continuing to focus on small businesses, which have been highly innovative during this pandemic, responding really to the crisis, responding to specific opportunities and specific challenges that they've spotted and rising above the rest. In conversation today, two such entrepreneurs. First up is 1Bridge. I'm also being joined on the show tonight by Augnito. Madan, thank you for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. Good having you back with us. And the last time we spoke, we were talking about the specific challenges of rural India, but we were speaking specific to the distribution network, the supply network, talking about demand and supply, and what really is going on in small-time India. It's been a couple of weeks since we last spoke, so I just want to get a sense from you. Have things changed? Because now we've had the second wave. We're looking at possibly the third wave, and how have things really changed? What sense can you give us?
Thanks, Sunanda, for having me on the show. We have a whole lot of entrepreneurs on the ground, and we've been talking to them the last week or so, especially around the situation on the ground. And we're getting some interesting inputs. One is that about 50% of the villages, and I'm talking really of villages in the sub 10K population and some taluks in the 40 to 60K population, are reporting life to be normal from a COVID standpoint, which means they are not aware of any cases around in their vicinity, in their neighborhoods. And about 50% of them are saying, yes, we know that some cases exist. So the good news is that we still probably have some time to start securing some of our villages. Secondly, vaccines have started reaching. Almost 90% of our entrepreneurs say that they know somebody or the other, or one of them have taken their first shot of vaccine. Or somebody in the family, which means that we know distribution is working. Of course, shortage and challenges persist. The not so good news is that because of the lockdown and the fear of the pandemic, almost 80% or more of them are reporting lower business activity in the villages, in and around them, and lower revenues, that sales that they're doing through their own shops. And they're scared, saying that, hey, if we are still in the early days of the lockdown, what's going to happen to us and how do we survive this period?
You just said that 85% of businesses, companies, etc., are looking at lower revenues for 2020. In your conversations then with small businesses, what are they telling you about how they've been perhaps preparing really, or I can't really call it preparing because you can't really prepare for loss of revenue, but what are they doing in terms of maybe different strategy, looking at new markets, newer service offerings? What are some of the things that these businesses are doing?
They are dipping into their savings or plan to dip into their savings. They're looking for loans, but from a 1Bridge standpoint, we are trying to figure out, hey, what more can you do to your villages that can offer better services? So, for example, we know healthcare is going to be a very key service that the community will need. So we are actually in talks with a variety of partners to take a telemedicine, telehealth, pharmacy supplies, all into our villages, which can then operate through the entrepreneur, give them an additional source of income. Similarly, we are seeing, credit, access to credit, digital services like mobile recharges, which we do, and DTH and bill payments and APS-based cash withdrawals, which will all make the life of the consumer easier. Could be services that our entrepreneurs can offer at a much higher pace and scale to the village community so that they can earn more incomes. I think the focus for us at 1Bridge is the following. One is, how do you create more service opportunities for them that make sense to the communities in times like this? Two, how do you secure them on social security? So, for example, we are now insisting and working with all of our entrepreneurs to cover them on various life insurance, health insurance, and accident insurance schemes so that they don't have to have a double whammy of a health issue when they're battling a financial issue. And third, we are trying to figure out how do we enable them to get access to credit and working capital loans and stuff like that so that their they don't have to go deep into their personal savings.
So what initiatives are you taking? What can you tell us about what you're doing to help small businesses tackle COVID?
Yeah, sure. So we, from a COVID angle, we're trying to do three things here, Sunanda. One is, how do you secure the entrepreneurs first? So we are organizing a training program, which is an online telephonic training program through a healthcare partner, where we are talking about COVID appropriate behaviors, where we are talking about vaccine hesitancy and why they should go out and get their vaccines. And third, if somebody falls ill at home, what are the first responses and how do you run a home protocol that ensures that the situation doesn't aggravate? So we're trying to first secure themselves and their families. We also have a WhatsApp chatbot through this partner where they can ask any question and the chatbot will provide them the information. And third, we are setting up a small call center ourselves where they can call if they need any help. The second thing that we're trying to do is to create them as COVID warriors and have them not just take care of themselves, but can they spread this information to their community? So with, again, a few partners, we're trying to figure out how do you work with these entrepreneurs to start securing their villages and their gram panchayats. Can they be the source of accurate information for anybody in that village, which anywhere entrepreneurs do? Can they be the source of information back to us and the district administration when they see any initial sign of illness and any signs of panic? Can we then use that information to respond? So that is the second initiative that we are trying to do, to say, how is it that you can start helping your communities around this? And the third is especially around medical supplies. It could be around masks, PPE kits, sanitizers, etc. If there are shortages, we are leveraging our last mile delivery network to be able to zip it across to their villages. Including, we are talking about, can we then be able to take oxygen concentrators and have one at every village, and maybe depending on the need, run this within a 100-kilometer radius and start shipping this depending on which village needs what. So again, with a few partners, we're having conversations around how do you run a medical supplies last mile delivery network, which will cover maybe 100 villages in one run. And can we start providing this as a service to the villages itself?
You're also working with the government to curtail COVID, strengthen delivery, strengthen supply, etc. Just run us through that.
Absolutely. In fact, we are in conversations with a few folks in the government, especially now. There is a heightened sense of urgency to prevent any large-scale escalations in the villages of the district, and it's inevitable that we see more cases happening in the district and the villages. So the government is also very keenly looking at initiatives where you can prevent it in the tracks, or through a home isolation protocol, can we then start creating a model where it doesn't have to escalate into hospital beds and oxygen beds. So we are talking to a few, both at the local district as well as the state administration. Early days, but I hope that we should be able to piece all of this together and land it at the gram panchayat of the village very soon.
How about payment systems and payment gateways, Madan? And that's, of course, a huge part of the conversation. What's happening on that front?
We are seeing a fair amount of interest and acceleration towards e-commerce or buying products online. Again, for the same reason that people don't want to leave their villages, and two, there might be a genuine shortage of these products in those towns and villages. So therefore, they are open to exploring online, which was not there earlier. We saw this happening last year as well. So this is a dark cloud. The silver lining is that it is forcing people to consider newer ways of online digital payments, online digital services, and of course, e-commerce as a viable option. And hopefully, if the experience is good and they see the benefits of this happening, this behavior should stick.
What's consumption then, going to look like? Because on one hand, you have demand and supply that's getting perhaps hit. What is the consumption story going to look like in small town India?
We're getting a lot of confusing signals from there, Sunanda. Not able to see a pattern. on one hand, at least a couple of weeks ago, we did some dipstick surveys on consumer durables consumption. This was in end of April, and we saw a lot of demand patterns coming up for home appliances, kitchen appliances, mobile accessories. Almost 1 out of 2 people that we talked about said yes, they are looking to buy something in the next 3 months to 6 months. Of course, there were dependencies on loans availability, etc. On the other hand, especially the last 2 weeks, we see our entrepreneurs saying their own business volumes, which are the kirana stores and the small ticket sizes items, are slowing down, which means people don't want to go spend too much of money trying to stock up or trying to buy things ahead of time or whatever. From our experience of last year, with migrant labor going back, with agricultural incomes being good, and with Manrega flowing out, we didn't see too much of a pressure on consumption last year. But if this potential possible lockdown continues and for a longer periods of time, I sense that there will be definitely stress there.
So FY22 then, Madan, just give us a sense of what perhaps that the rest of this fiscal is looking like for you.
It is still very uncertain. We don't know how many waves are going to come. It looks likely that this up and down of the numbers will continue. My advice to an entrepreneur watching the show, and that's what I'm telling my colleagues, is we need to think of two vectors at the same time. One, how do you cut down on the flab? How do you cut down on any unnecessary expense so that you can stay afloat for a longer time? But two, as in every dark cloud, there are silver linings of quote unquote opportunities where you can serve better. Find that and find out what is making sense to your customer segments and bring that in, and you'll be able to generate additional revenues. So I think it is time to really get the true entrepreneur out from your within to survive. At the same time, figure out how you can ride this wave and grow faster.
All right, Madan, good having you here on the show.
Thank you, Sunanda.
We'll take a quick break. In conversation on the other side is Augnito on our LOT hot seat. Back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. In the hot seat tonight is Rustom Lawyer of Augnito. Rustom, thanks for taking the time to speak with us today. Before we talk about the innovation that you are doing at your business and, of course, how you responded to the pandemic and the crisis and the opportunity, if I can call it that, first and foremost, I want to understand the business model that Augnito has and offers. What can you tell us?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me on the show, Sunanda. And we're essentially in the voice artificial intelligence space. Voice actually is the most natural way for us to communicate as humans. But it's also increasingly becoming the most efficient way to start communicating with computers as well. And if you look at healthcare as a use case, if you look at the main infrastructure of healthcare, the electronic medical record really is at the center of it all. And one of the key sort of problems with an electronic medical record is that doctors find it very laborious to have to type into these systems. But finally, it's the data that comes into that system, which is very important. So our voice technology and our company Augnito really provides a voice user interface for all these electronic medical records to make it super easy for doctors to be able to dictate into these systems, with extremely complex language. We like to say we've got the entire language of medicine inside our software. And you can also do a lot of command and control of these systems. So voice really has started coming to a great prominence during the pandemic. In fact, we've rolled out across most of the major healthcare systems in the country, at least the private ones. And we're also in most of the sort of diagnostic centers and areas where a lot of the CT scans and MRIs and X-rays and all are happening as well.
So voice, as you're saying, is coming of age. So I want to break that down and say what's the potential, what's the size, how's it growing, what are the big opportunities really when it comes to using voice, whether it's in healthcare or otherwise.
Yeah, I think our industry is completely shot to prominence, in the last few months because the leader really globally is a company called Nuance Communications, and they recently have been purchased by Microsoft for close to $20 billion. So I think large companies like Microsoft clearly are seeing the value in this type of technology, and we're actually currently the leader in the Indian market, and we've spent a lot of time actually doing a huge amount of human-centered design and understanding what we need to do to really design for this market in a sort of more specific way, really. Automation really is at the key of being able to scale up, for our market. If we're planning to spend and increase our sort of budgets for healthcare, which currently, extremely low if you look at it from a global sort of benchmark, we need to do that in a very smart way. And one of the ways to really invest, in areas like automation, which is going to make a huge difference, really. And you're going to get much more bang for your buck.
So we're talking about the size and the growth. So, what's the opportunity, what's the challenge, and what is really holding businesses and the industry back when it comes from when it comes to either innovating, using voice, or just using voice technologies? What's really holding companies back? What's that challenge?
Yeah, so I think we clearly are seeing a lot of traction already happening. But when you look at the voice space, there's several opportunities. I'll give you an example. There's a company recently in Israel which has come up with an app that can detect COVID up to 85% accuracy just from the sound of your voice. So the voice actually has a thing called a voice biomarker, right? So, for example, say if someone was depressed, you could potentially, from the tone of their voice, be able to highly accurately, using these deep learning systems, tell if someone actually has that. So, think about it as from a diagnostic tool that can be scaled to, a billion people on an app, right? Available with you, and the sort of cost and the disruption that this could have, right? So I just think that really getting the message out there is very important, at the end of the day. And I think the minute people realize that the potential that this technology can bring, people are actually embracing it very fast.
When we're talking anything to do with technology, and since we're talking technology and healthcare, we have to talk data security for this market and industry. What can you tell us about data security for the voice market? How and what you are doing at your own business when it comes to protecting consumers' data and customers' data, and really the entire picture when it comes to data security for the voice market? What's happening on that?
Sure. No, I mean, it's a great question, and it's absolutely core to our business. And I think, if you're going to succeed in the healthcare space, you need to take this extremely seriously, and you have to actually invest in this. Nowadays, there's actually a lot of technology that's come to make sure, like anonymization technologies and, the way that things are stored and, audited as well. So all these type of things together, it's like a constant sort of cycle that you have to keep working on and keep improving on. But at the end of the day, it is an area that has to be looked at, invested in, and good policy to make sure that you actually have a balance between the ability to leverage data, right? And also, of course, make sure that the information is kept in the most secure way. And I think people have been able to do that quite successfully in the financial sector. So I don't think that it's going to be a problem to achieve this in healthcare.
So, mid to short term, what are the opportunities looking like for you? What are your plans? What can you share?
We were recognized by NASSCOM as one of the leading automation technologies for hospitals. And it's certainly been a very, very busy period. You know, when we just started, in Jan 2020 with Augnito and the pandemic just hit, for a few months, it was obviously, a lot of hospitals, obviously dealing with this issue. But, very quickly, people were realizing that, if you want to give a contactless type of technology, something that can get a lot of things done, voice technology really has been very helpful for a lot of people. And, you in a current situation, there's a lot of sort of administration and things that are there around with doctors. But today, with this, we've given them mobility, we've given them the opportunity to work from home, and do all this important side, which is the admin side. But also, if you look at areas like discharge summaries, right? Today, bed shortage is such an acute problem. But using Augnito, actually, people have been able to, get their discharge summaries done very, very rapidly. And, you can actually move people in their beds and, keep that process moving. So there are many use cases where it's being used and, providing a lot of value, we believe.
Before we end, I do want to reference Microsoft's buy of Nuance. What that, if anything, does it mean for entrepreneurs here in India who are in the voice space?
No, I just, come back to the fact that, if we're going to support a billion plus population, and give them the best quality healthcare, automation is just going to be absolutely central to this. I think my advice to entrepreneurs really is to embrace uncertainty. You have to live with that as an entrepreneur, but, you have to keep going, right? And if you want to succeed, you have to keep at it and, go for your vision. We've actually been at it for close to 2 decades now. And the R&D that's gone into building a voice recognition engine like this has taken us many, many years. We've worked with professors from MIT, Sheffield University, IIT Bombay, and a lot of the time it's just been a very, very long road to achieve this. And I feel at the moment, just extremely proud that our technology is helping doctors, at this most critical time.
All right, Rustom. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us here, and all the very best. That wraps up today's conversation, but all of this week we're going to continue to put the spotlight on companies, businesses, entrepreneurs that are doing something highly innovative in the time of this pandemic. If you're one such company, if you know of any businesses that you think we must speak with, do let us know. Our contact details coming up on your screens. And thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.